Okay, let's dive in. Imagine this. A really traumatic scene, right? Ancient gods, pagan gods, clashing head-on with, well, the invisible power of the divine. And right at the heart of it all, there's this mysterious sacred box.
That box, yeah, that's the Ark of God, of course. And this story is just incredible because the Ark isn't just some passive object, some war prize.
Right.
It actually becomes this active force,
Yeah,
bringing divine judgment in ways nobody expected.
exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into a really surprising part of the Bible, 1 Samuel chapters 5 and 6. It often gets kind of overlooked, I think.
It does.
And it's way more than just, tracking a piece of furniture. It's this profound theological drama playing out.
And we're drawing a lot from Ariel Lewis's work on this. Her insights really help us see that the story isn't just about the Philistines capturing the Ark. It's about what happens when the divine presence itself shows up kind of uninvited right in the middle of enemy territory.
Okay, so our mission here, for you listening, is to really peel back the layers of this ancient story. You want to look at the divine judgments, the honestly surprising things it reveals about God's nature.
And the deep theological meaning that's packed in there.
Yeah.
We're going to try and guide you through the events, step by step, using the commentary to shed light on what's really going on, why it matters, beyond just like the historical play-by-play of who had the box.
Okay, let's jump right in then. So the story kicks off. Philistines are victorious. They've beaten Israel at Ebenezer. They've got the Ark. First move.
Take it back home, specifically to Ashdod, one of their main cities.
Right.
And this is where the commentary points out their first, fundamental mistake.
Yeah.
They see the Ark not as the symbol or vessel of God's presence,
All right.
but almost like the God itself, another idol, basically, a powerful one they've captured and now think they can just sort of absorb.
Right. Like, we won, so your God now works for us or something. The text says they treat it with great respect, but...
It's trophy respect, isn't it?
Right. Exactly. Respect for a prize you took from a tough enemy. So they take it into Dagon's temple, he's their big god, and stick the Ark right next to Dagon's statue.
The irony is just huge. They're trying to fit the God of Israel onto their shelf of gods.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Completely missing that the Ark and the God it represents, well, you can't possess that like an object. You relate through covenant, not conquest.
And the response from the divine is pretty quick.
Yeah.
And physical.
Very physical. Next morning, the Ashdodites walk in and find Dagon's statue knocked over, face down.
Face down, right in front of the Ark.
Yeah, maybe they thought, whoops, an earthquake, or someone bumped it.
Could be a fluke, right. So they pick Dagon up, put him back. Okay, problem solved.
Not quite. The message didn't stick, because the next morning, Dagon's down again.
Only this time.
This time, it's way more definitive. His head and both his hands are snapped clean off.
Wow.
Lying there on the threshold of the temple, only the trunk, the main body, is left standing. Or, well, left.
It's graphic. The commentary calls this more than just symbolic. It calls it prophetic.
Absolutely. It's God making a statement, a powerful argument, a polemic against idolatry itself. He doesn't need soldiers. His mere presence dismantles the pagan god.
That physical dismemberment is just such a clear visual declaration. God is supreme, Dagon is powerless.
And it left a mark. The text mentions that even later, the priests of Dagon and the worshippers in Ashdod wouldn't step on that threshold.
Really?
Yeah, it became this permanent reminder of that. Well, that smackdown, they saw it as a god fight, and their guy lost. Big time.
But the divine action wasn't just about Dagon, was it? It spread.
No, it definitely wasn't just symbolic. The text says the hand of the Lord was heavy upon Ashdod. He started afflicting the people themselves.
With emerods, it says, which sounds unpleasant.
Extremely unpleasant, some kind of painful tumors or boils like a plague, and it hit everyone in the city, out in the country around it.
And our source explains this isn't just random bad luck. It's a direct consequence.
It's targeted. They tried to, you could say, commit theological theft.
Yeah.
Grab God, box him up, make him theirs. And God's response was, no, you can't. With consequences they couldn't possibly ignore.
So the people of Ashdod, they finally connect the dots.
They get it. They realize, okay, we cannot handle this God. His hand is too heavy, not just on Dagon, but on us.
So what's the plan?
They call a meeting. All the Philistine lords get together. Emergency summit.
And the solution is? Pass the buck.
Pretty much. Let's send the Ark to Gath, another Philistine city. Their thinking maybe was that the Gathites were different, Maybe knew more Hebrew stuff.
That's interesting. The commentary highlights that as another misunderstanding, right?
Yeah, Lewis points out they seem to think knowing some cultural bits and pieces, maybe language, will somehow appease this god.
But it's not about culture.
Exactly. It's about covenant. It's about relationship. Knowing the rituals doesn't give you a free pass or special protection if you're fundamentally misunderstanding who you're dealing with.
And sure enough,
Same story in Gath. The heavy hand of the Lord falls on them too. Great panic, the text says, and everyone, rich and poor, gets hit with the emerods.
okay, now real panic must be setting in. From Gath, where next?
They try Ekron, another major city.
And the Ekronites? Are they happy to receive this guest?
Not at all. They see it coming and basically cry out, "You're bringing the Ark of the God of Israel here to kill us too." They've heard the news from Ashdod and Gath.
They know the pattern?
They know the pattern, so the Lords meet again, and this time the message is unanimous and driven by sheer terror.
What do they say?
Send it back. Send the Ark back where it belongs before it wipes us all out. The plague was deadly now. People were dying. Those who weren't dying had the emerods, and the whole city was just crying out in agony.
Our source makes a really key point here about their internal state. It's not just physical suffering.
No, it's deeper. It's this internal conflict. They know this is the God of Israel, the one who crushed Dagon, the one bringing the plague. But they're still stuck in their own pagan, materialistic way of seeing things. They can't square the reality of God's power with their own worldview.
And that conflict, that inability to reconcile things, just gets worse with the suffering, doesn't it? It doesn't lead to understanding.
Exactly. It just inflames the contradiction.
So this goes on for 7 months. The ark is bouncing around Philistia, causing chaos. It's interesting, Lewis notes, that this crisis actually forced the 5 usually divided Philistine tribes to kind of unify.
Yeah. Ironically, the Ark, even while it's seemingly captured or in exile, is actively shaping events, forcing reflection, exposing problems.
Finally, they do something different. They call their own religious experts.
They're priests and diviners, yeah. This is a shift. They ask them point blank, what do we do with this ark? How do we send it away properly?
And the advice they get is fascinating.
It really is. First rule, don't send it back empty-handed. You absolutely must send a guilt offering with it. If you want to be healed, that's one reason. But maybe more importantly, they suggest it's the only way to find out why his hand hasn't lifted from you. It's like an acknowledgement of fault.
Okay, so what kind of offering?
They ask that too. And the answer is specific. 5 golden emerods and 5 golden mice.
Golden mice. Where do they come from?
Apparently mice were also part of the plague, maybe ravaging the land or associated with the disease. The number 5 represents the 5 Philistine lords, covering all their territories.
So make little gold images of the things afflicting you.
Exactly. Make images of the tumors and the mice, give glory, acknowledge the power of the God of Israel, and maybe, just maybe, he'll lighten up.
And then comes this really startling moment. These pagan diviners, they bring up a story from Israel's history.
It's amazing, isn't it? They suddenly invoke the Exodus. They basically say, hey, why be stubborn like the Egyptians and Pharaoh were? Remember them. Didn't God work powerfully against them until they finally let Israel go?
Wow. Pagan priests using Israel's foundational story against their own people's potential stubbornness.
You see, this mix, right? Pagan logic, superstition, wanting appeasement. But it's starting to blend with something that sounds almost like moral awareness. Recognizing a divine pattern. Don't harden your hearts. The echo is there.
So they come up with a test, a really clever, practical test.
Brilliant test. Okay, here's the plan. Get a brand new cart, never used. Find 2 cows that have just calved that are nursing.
Okay, so their instinct would be strong to stay with their calves.
Exactly. And cows that have never pulled a cart, never been yoked. Take those cows, hitch them to the new cart. Crucially, take their calves away and lock them up back home.
Right.
Put the ark on the cart. Put the box with the golden guilt offerings next to it, and then just let the cows go. See what happens.
The logic is pretty clear, isn't it?
Crystal clear. If these untrained nursing cows ignore their screaming calves back home and walk straight, unguided, toward Beth Shemesh, which is Israelite land,
Then it wasn't just bad luck.
then this whole thing, Dagon, the plagues, everything, it was absolutely undeniably God's doing.
Yeah.
If they wander off or head back to their calves, then maybe it was just chance, some weird coincidence.
Our source really emphasizes this. The Philistines are basically agreeing to let reality, let nature itself give the verdict.
Can the natural order be overridden? If these cows do the unnatural thing, that's not chance. That's God. That's providence.
So they do it. They follow the instructions to the letter. New cart, nursing cows, calves shut away, ark and offerings loaded up.
And the result?
The text is just
Yeah.
stark.
Man.
The cows head straight for Beth Shemesh. No wandering.
Took the highway, it says, lowing as they went, probably missing their cabs, but never turned left or right, just kept going.
And the Philistine lords.
They follow them, watching the whole way, right up to the border of Beth Shemesh. They see it with their own eyes.
The commentary calls this just a powerful confirmation of God's control over everything.
Everything, even the deepest instincts of nature, bow to his direction. He doesn't just guide history, he guides instinct.
Meanwhile, in Beth Shemesh.
The Israelites are just minding their own business, harvesting wheat down in the valley. They look up
And see the ark coming back.
Imagine the shock, and then rejoicing. Huge rejoicing.
The cart comes into a field, stops right by a big stone there. What do the Beth Shemesh folks do?
Immediately, they recognize the significance. They chop up the wooden cart for firewood.
And the cows?
They offer the cows as a burnt offering to the Lord, right there. The Levites, the ones designated to handle sacred items, carefully take down the ark and the offering box and place them on that large stone.
And the Philistine lords see all this.
They witness the whole scene, the cows arriving, the Israelites receiving the ark, the immediate sacrifice. They see the confirmation, then they turn around and head back to Ekron.
Now, here's a really sobering point our source makes about those Philistine lords.
Yeah, it's quite poignant. Even after witnessing all of this Dagon destroyed, the plagues, this undeniable miracle with the cows.
Their fundamental attitude towards Israel didn't change.
Not one bit. Their deep-seated hatred, their desire to eventually destroy Israel, none of that was diminished or deterred by these incredible signs of God's power.
It's tragic, isn't it? Miracles don't automatically change hearts.
Not if the heart is unwilling to yield. For people clinging to their own power, their own ideology, they can see God's hand clearly and still choose defiance, still choose hatred.
Oh, wait, the story doesn't quite end there, does it? There's another twist.
No, it's not over. And the judgment doesn't just stay in Philistia. The focus shifts back to Israel, to Beth Shemesh.
What happens?
The text says God struck down some of the men of Beth Shemesh. Why? Because they gazed upon the ark of the Lord.
She looked at it. That seems harsh.
Well, Lewis clarifies this. The word used implies more than a casual glance. It suggests they were treating it with a kind of improper, maybe superstitious awe.
Ah, okay.
Almost like they were deifying the box itself, focusing on it as an object of power, maybe curiosity, essentially falling into a similar trap as the Philistines initially did.
So even God's own people could get it wrong. Fundamentally wrong.
Absolutely. Israel wasn't immune to theological error. The ark isn't some magic talisman to be stared at or handled with superstitious fear.
It's a symbol.
It's a symbol of a relationship, yes. The earthly sign of God's presence, his throne. To treat it with that kind of idolatrous awe, reducing it from a symbol of a living relationship to just a powerful object that betrays its meaning, that violates its holiness.
So the reaction of the men of Beth Shemesh is fear.
A different kind of fear now, maybe. A holy terror. They cry out, "Who can possibly stand before the Lord, this holy God?" They realize they're out of their depth.
And what do?
They send messengers to the next town, Kiriath Jearim, basically saying, the Philistines sent the ark back, but you guys come get it, please. Take this terrifying presence away from us.
Wow.
And the ark ends up staying there in Kiriath Jearim for a long time, waiting for a different approach, perhaps. One based on proper covenant understanding and respect, not just fear or superstition.
Okay, so let's just quickly trace that incredible journey again for everyone listening.
Right.
It goes from capture by the Philistines.
Right. Then judgment on their god, Dagon. Judgment on their cities through plagues.
And then that amazing test with the cows, proving God's hand was in it all.
Leading to its return to Israelite territory, Beth Shemesh.
Only for God's own people to face judgment there too, because they fundamentally misunderstood how to relate to the sacred presence.
Exactly. And the core takeaway, drawing on Lewis's insights from this deep dive, is really powerful. The ark. It was never truly captive.
Right.
And God himself. He is definitely not an idol. He can't be contained, can't be possessed, can't be controlled by anyone.
Not by pagan nations trying to conquer him.
And not even by Israel. His own people, if they approach him the wrong way, treat him like an object. God isn't localized. He's sovereign. He desires a true relationship.
And he demands integrity, not just in actions, but in how we even think about him, how we perceive the sacred.
Lewis uses this beautiful phrase, inviting us not just to read this text, but to let ourselves be read by it. Because this story, it really pushes back against our easy assumptions, doesn't it? about God's presence, about power, about how we relate to holiness.
It shows God's presence actively resisting being boxed in, controlled, possessed.
Whether by enemies outside the covenant or even by people inside it who treat him like a thing instead of the living God.
So here's something maybe to really chew on from this deep dive. How does this ancient story showing the divine presence can't be controlled or earned? Not by pagans, not even by God's people when they mess up.
Yeah.
How does that challenge your own assumptions? Your ideas about holiness, about power, about what it means to genuinely relate to the sacred?
What does it mean to relate to God rather than trying to manage him or contain him or turn his presence into something you can just gaze at?